Well, I mean, if we wanted to get really conspiratorial, we could say that the judges in these court cases are investing in renewables themselves. I mean, it's all seems to fit.
There's trillions of dollars are in this game, Fred. Trillions.
There are. It's not a joke, actually. But let's talk about Conservatives being punished in another way. Let's talk about fact-checking. Now, this is absolutely hilarious. You recently wrote a piece about fact-checking, which itself was fact-checked. What happened? What did the original piece say?
So I originally accused the fact-checkers of today of being no better than corporate fixers who were brought in to cover up or soften the catastrophic errors of CEOs, politicians and companies who make a mess online. And so, for instance, we talked about PayPal last week. That's an example where they do something that is obviously idiotic, and the fact-checkers say, that thing you saw yesterday, that didn't happen because it was missing context, right? You were wrong, Fred, it didn't happen. So I wrote an article about that, and the first thing that happened on Facebook is the fact-checkers fact-checked my article, and I'm going to read you the message they left on my article. It said, missing context, independent fact-checkers say this information could mislead people. And I called the fact-checkers liars. And so I hurt their feelings.
Well, they claim to be independent. How independent are they? It sounds like the judges who let off the kids with blue hair, or the nefarious financiers of all these protesters. All of these things are connected, aren't they?
I have some really bad news for you, Fred. You know, the coloured-haired people gluing themselves to paintings? That's the same generation that act as anonymous fact-checkers online. So they're the people who decide what the truth is going to be inside our civilization, but they don't do it on their own. They are backed by very, very wealthy interests who don't like the public and the plebs like you and I talking about how terrible their last political disaster was or how awful their company is.
But again, I mean, PayPal's last faux pas was to cancel people who they thought were, not woke enough. Why do the fact-checkers, I'm playing devil's advocate here, why do the fact-checkers go into bat for PayPal and not the people who've been cancelled?
Because it's not about fact-checking. I mean, fact-checking used to be, and this is where fact-checkers started, there would be, say, a photograph of a crowd put up online and someone would say, this is a French protest rally. And then a fact-checker would say, well, actually, that photograph is from Madrid 20 years ago and it's a football match, right? That's what a fact-checker used to be about. Is a service really necessary? Not exactly, because some idiot on the internet will find it out and reveal it anyway. You don't need fact-checkers to do that for you. But, it's much of a muchness. Now they come in and they manipulate what you saw. So they can't deny, for example, that PayPal tried to find people. But they can say that it's fake news because it's not in the right context that they want us to understand it. And that's what this is about, the Orwellian idea of changing the truth by changing the perception of what happened with a bit of trickery.
Well, you mentioned the word Orwellian, and it had to come up eventually.
It's overused, and I hate that it's overused, but the poor guy was dead right.
He was. How frightening is this, Alexandra?
Well, my fear is this. We've already seen how damaging fact-checkers can be with the whole COVID narrative. We've seen it happen. Well, now we've got the climate narrative moving on, and all of these social media fact-checkers have already said they're going to come down heavy-handed on the climate stuff. So what's going to happen is we'll have blackouts, for instance, or we won't be able to afford energy. And the fact-checkers will say, well, it's not because of net zero. It's not because of renewables. These are virtuous, perfect technologies. It's because we've always had blackouts. You know, the city in darkness for 6 months, that's normal. It's missing context, Fred. So we won't be able to critique the new business plan of net zero because we'll be fact-checked.
Yeah, pretty soon we'll be able to criticise the federal government for not reducing our energy bills by, what was it, $275 a year.
Who's going to reduce Albo's climate bill because he loves his private jets?